The Shark Deck.
I'm Johnny Mac, and it's Super Bowl Sunday. Hi, I have your comedy news for you. Kevin Hart is supporting the Eagles today. He went on TikTok to make it how clear he is supporting the Eagles. Here's Kevin.
All right, people. The big game is coming up, so you already know how I'm celebrating correctly with that Mino Lino, Grand Cormino on deck. But before I get into how I'm celebrating, I want to tell you why. Well, because I worked hard. And I believe when you work hard, you should treat yourself. And that's exactly what I did. Ladies and gentlemen, I splurged a little bit. I went and brought an Eagle. Show it. Yeah. I bought that. 16.5 mil, cash. I'm the only black man with an Eagle during Black History Month. And because it's a wild animal, he came with it. That's right. So he lives here for 2 months till he get used to me. I named the Eagle Jalen Hurts. Jalen, got a big game coming up, baby. You ready? Hey, when I say fly, Eagles fly. Can he take a lap around the house?
Hopefully it's a bit and he hasn't actually bought an Eagle. Meanwhile, on the Chiefs side, Jason Sudeikis is a known Chiefs superfan. He said, Kansas City is part of my soul. It's where I'm from. It's where I was raised. It's where my folks live, where a lot of good and bad things have happened to me and many other people. His advice for the Chiefs, more ice baths. Some other notable fans. Rob Riggle is a Chiefs fan. He grew up in Kansas, graduated from University of Kansas in 92, and said, I'm a huge Kansas City Chiefs fan. These are the greatest days of my life. Everybody's excited, right? I know that Eagles fans are excited. Philly fans have really embraced their underdog status. You've all seen the dog mask that these guys are wearing. Kind of intimidating, but you know what's scarier than barking dogs? Regular Eagles fans. Mac Packer Henry Winkler is a big fan of Patrick Mahomes. Winkler says he roots for the Chiefs, even though I've never lived there, but specifically because of Patrick Mahomes. He even got starstruck. He said he was thrilled out of his mind to meet Patrick Mahomes for the first time ahead of a game in November. Let's take a look at the commercials. Jeff Ross will be roasting Mr. Peanut. This is Planters' Super Bowl ad today. When Jeff Ross was asked to do it, he said, I immediately started reading all the research I could find on Mr. Peanut. I went to his Wikipedia. I went to the Planters site. I watched all his older Super Bowl commercials. I had some conversations with him and learned everything I could so that I could roast him as an expert, not just as a fan of his peanuts, but also somebody who I admire. Time out. Didn't Mr. Peanut die like 2, 3, 5 years ago? And the person that is now alive is the baby Mr. Peanut, all grown up. So is Jeff Ross roasting a toddler here? Did I lose the continuity? Does it matter? Johnny Mac, can you just watch a commercial and go with the joke that Jeff Ross is roasting a peanut? Why do you have to overanalyze everything? Great question, listener. Jeff Ross said, Mr. Peanut is an American legend. He got us through the Great Depression. No, he didn't. That was the original Mr. Peanut. This is a new Mr. Peanut. I saw the commercial. The guy died. In 2020, Mr. Peanut, iconic Planters mascot, dies at 104. Peanut, who lived out the entirety of his years as the mascot of the Planters Snack Food Company, has died. The iconic brand ambassador died heroically, sacrificing himself to save his friends Wesley Snipes and Matt Walsh. The trio were driving down a desert road in Mr. Peanut's signature vehicle, the Nutmobile, when Mr. Peanut swerved to avoid an armadillo, sent them all flying from the car, and they ended up dangling from a branch. Mr. Peanut chose to let go of the branch, plummeting into the canyon below to let his companions live. Mr. Peanut, full name Bartholomew Richard Fitzgerald Smythe, was born in 1916 when schoolboy Antonio Gentili submitted his design for an anthropomorphic peanut mascot to Planters. But wait, there's more. In a different commercial, Wesley Snipes is speaking at Mr. Peanut's funeral, which is attended by the likes of Mr. Clean and the Kool-Aid Man. The Kool-Aid Man sheds a tear, which causes a plant to immediately sprout, and a baby Mr. Peanut is born. The baby says, just kidding, I'm back. Where's my monocle? So is this like a Search for Spock thing? Is this the original Mr. Peanut reborn? Johnny Mac, why can't you just accept that Jeff Ross is roasting Mr. Peanut and that's the joke? Why do you have to do this? I don't know. Jeff Ross said, Mr. Peanut is an American legend. He got us through the Great Depression. He's a cheap snack during tough times. Wait, so is Mr. Peanut like 106 years old? Jeff Ross said, I had some conversations with him and learned everything I could so I could roast him as an expert, not just a fan of his peanuts, but also somebody I admire. He got us through the Great Depression. He's a cheap snack during tough times, and I wanted to honor him in the best way I could with well-crafted roast jokes. When you roast someone like Mr. Peanut, who's been around 106 years, I think the best way to do it is backhanded compliments. You don't want it to be mean-spirited. You want to kind of make them feel good. He's 106 years old, almost old enough to run for Congress. I wanted to feel like the jokes were the kind of thing where him, his family, and his friends could repeat them after the roast. I didn't want them to feel hurt by the jokes, but lifted up by the jokes. Jeff Ross spoke about the current state of comedy with Fox News, and he said, I thought people might get more sensitive over the years. During the pandemic, I was honestly worried, is roasting over? Are people too sensitive? And then as things opened back up, I got in the clubs and I realized, nope. People still love seeing their idols get taken down a notch. They love to see people they admire laugh at themselves. Nobody wants the roast watered down. They want their roast potent. They want their comedy right to the gut, and I think roasting speaks of that specifically. We all evolve as human beings. No one kind of talks about the world the way we did 10, 20 years ago. So I evolve like everyone else, and my comedy evolves like everyone else. But to be honest with you, comedy is almost like a vaccine for your brain. It protects you from mental health worries. It's a real medicine. It sounds corny, but it really can lift people up. Another commercial will star the aforementioned Kevin Hart, who said, we got to tap into some relationships, big cameos, and hit the button on the head with messaging while giving an extreme amount of personality and fun to what I think is going to be a truly unique spot during the Super Bowl. The commercial includes some folks like Tony Hawk, David Ortiz, Dr. J, The Undertaker, Emmett Smith, Ludacris. How'd he get all these people? He said, it's a business of relationships and how you nurture and carry and treat them throughout the years. I prioritize them, and when I call, they respond. That's something that I take an extreme amount of pride in. Johnny Mac will speculate, and somebody got paid to be in a Super Bowl ad. That's also entirely possible. It's equally possible that, Dr. J is just doing it because he's cool like that, but maybe he got paid to be in the ad. Who knows, really? Kevin Hart said, I think people are going to be blown away. They're great cameos. There's a great reason for those cameos to be in the spot. My fingers are crossed. All superstition is kicked in. I would love to come home with another win. Kevin Hart seems to think he's on the Eagles, and he said that would put me on cloud 9. Yet a different commercial will star Will Ferrell. He drives different electric vehicles through different Netflix shows, including Bridgerton and Stranger Things. This to announce Netflix will feature electric vehicles in its original shows. The Will Ferrell spots in the past have bombed, and reading that description, I don't know, Will. But, maybe Will got paid, or maybe he just did a Super Bowl commercial because he's cool like that. Who knows? Hellmann's Mayonnaise is back for the third consecutive year. This one, make taste, not waste. In the commercial, Pete Davidson looks into his refrigerator and he finds ham and brie. That's John Hamm and Allison Brie. In case you don't get the joke, ham and brie is a play on meat and cheese. Anyway, ham and brie are next to some mayonnaise, which is referred to as food's best friend. The viewer is then encouraged to make taste, not waste, by using mayonnaise to bring leftovers to life. I'm not a big mayo fan, and if I have to put mayo on something to eat it, this is not working for me. But I like Pete Davidson and John Hamm and Allison Brie, sure. Amy Schumer will be in an ad for the Google phone. That ad spotlights the phone's impressive AI imaging eraser technology. In the commercial, Amy Schumer magic erases her exes. Danny McBride will do a spot for Downey, where he wants to go by Downey McBride. And Greg Gutfeld declares he's the new king of late night. Yep, Fox is using one of their in-house spots to promote Gutfeld. During the big game, 15-second spot promoting an 11 o'clock show. The tagline declares Gutfeld the new king of late nights. And from The Athletic, your home for comedy news, Dean Blandino's fascinating rise from stand-up comedy to rulebook guru. You know this guy, when there's a penalty, they bring him on. They're like, hey, Dean, what's going on there? And he explains what the rules are. You've seen this. You've watched football. You know what I'm talking about here? He used to be a comedian during the 1990s. He had a bit about Monopoly. He said that was one of my comedy bits about growing up and the family would get together and play Monopoly, 5-hour-long games. Monopoly controversy. My grandmother was charging too much rent, trying to steal money from the bank. Mike Pereira, another one of those NFL officiating TV personalities, said the routine was hilarious. I must say I had a different opinion of his grandmother after I watched his routine. Blandino said, would play from the beginning when you'd have to buy the properties, and after about an hour, I was done. Most of my family loved it, and I'd just be sitting there. I had this vision of just losing, and at some point freaking out, knocking the board off the table, screaming at my grandmother that I didn't want to play anymore. His comedic influences were Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Eddie Murphy, and Red Fox. He said, there are comics and go out and not curse and be really entertaining. That wasn't me necessarily, but I wasn't like F this, F that. Obviously, with some of the influences that I have, they were more the adult style humor. I don't know what kind of style that was, but those are just some of the people that influenced me. Moose Johnston said, can you imagine Dean dropping a little George Carlin and Red Fox during a rules description? That'd be tremendous. I agree. Go for it. Do it during the Super Bowl. People will love you. Being on TV, he has to be quick on his feet, much like stand-up, Dean said, especially if you get interaction with the crowd. Maybe it's a heckler. You got to be quick thinking, but also it's the delivery, the timing. With TV, it's the same thing. You got to be in and out. You have to deliver it well. You got to be able to articulate. A lot of leads to success in stand-up. It also leads to success on TV. And this final item, as I was putting together the show, I Googled Comedy Super Bowl. I found this thing on the TCM, Turner Classic Movies website. This is from 1971, Super Comedy Bowl. Lucille Ball is your host. Among the cast, Carol Burnett, all right, Charlton Heston, Artie Johnson, and Jack Lemmon. I couldn't find anything else about it, and I looked. All I have for you is a description, a comedy special poking fun at the Super Bowl, its fans, and its players. And there was a sequel the following year. And that's your comedy news for today. Enjoy the big game. Follow the show for free on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. See you tomorrow. Did you know you can name a cockroach after your ex-lover and have it fed to the animals at the zoo? Hi, I'm Johnny Mack with 5 Good News Stories. It's a podcast twice a week where I tell you 5 good news stories, 5 fluffy stories. I just want to make you smile to start your day. I can tell you about a cat and a rabbit that fell in love, or I can tell you how porta potties are about to be a lot less horrible. What kind of show is this? It's called 5 Good News Stories. The number 5 Good News Stories. Follow it, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. 5 Good News Stories.